All right, welcome everyone. So this is the last one of the Soul Contract series. I'm so excited to do this last one, and this is all about mental health. We've got three amazing panelists. So we have Miss Anna Marie Green, who you've already met once before. She was in our Parenthood Edition, but we also added in Miss Alison Cohen, who is the founder of Transform Coaching. She's a holistic health coach and works with quite a few different modalities and like issues. I'll actually let her explain here in just a second. And then we've got Miss Nichole, who is a licensed therapist and is transitioning. Am I correct in that? We'll be like moving into like either adding intuition in or transitioning to something. I don't know. I feel like
Your
there's
guess is
been
as good as mine. I'm still trying to figure out what I'm gonna be doing also.
still working. All right. So I'll let them give you a better sort of understanding of what they do here, and then we're gonna jump right in. So, Allison, can you give us a little bit more about you and your journey?
Yeah, of course. So I am, like you mentioned, a coach, and I really began my journey in 2020 when I was sort of going through my own mental health crisis, I guess you could say, as I bet a lot of people were, because it was during COVID. And I went on Instagram and I found a spiritual therapist who I began working with, and she really opened my eyes to a lot of spirituality, but also really doing like that deep inner work. A lot of her work was very much so based in energy healing, shadow work, all of that good stuff. And I really fell in love with it. And that truly is what brought me to pursuing coaching myself. And so now I work with my clients to help them uncover the limiting beliefs and fears that are really sort of preventing them from achieving their goals. And like you mentioned, I use a couple different modalities, including behavioral coaching, mindset coaching, visualization, energy healing, as well as somatic work, in order to really work with those blocks on a deep level and help them really to transform the way that they're showing up in their life. Because sort of like a grounding principle that my practice has, and I got this from another one of my mentors, which I love, is that a true healing is a change in behavior. And so, you can really like do that work to understand, like, oh, why do I show up this way? Or what is that limiting belief or fear that I have? Or maybe who impacted me in this way in my past. But if you don't actually change the way you're showing up and actually, begin to engage in patterns and behaviors that are reflective of a more healed version of you, so not coming from that limiting belief or fear, um, there is sort of like a disconnect between the level of like understanding you have about it and then the level of healing that you've actually done. And so that's why I think that coaching is so powerful, is because yes, you do that inner work, but it also is so much, or it's very much so focused on implementing it into your external reality as well, to fully see sort of like that inner work that you've done sort of come into your external reality and begin to sort of attract things that are more aligned with that more healed version of yourself.
Yay. Nichole, do you want to go next? Tell us a little bit more about yourself and your journey.
Well, what I do isn't that exciting as Allison, so oh my gosh. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist here in the state of California. I primarily started working with adults, and recently I have transitioned to working with children. I would say I'm definitely trying to pivot what I'm going to be doing and how I'm going to be doing it, because of kind of like my own spiritual journey. I don't know what that's going to look like yet. Recently, I've really, really fallen in love with the subconscious mind for some reason. So we'll see if maybe we do something like that. I am also really interested in moving maybe into coaching, because it does seem different than therapy, where it's maybe focused more on future and what can we do currently to help you, whereas therapy a lot of times is very focused on the past, and I want to help people maybe move forward instead in a different way. So you were right, Abigail, when you said pivoting. I just don't know what that's going to look like yet, because I want to do a little bit of everything. And so that's kind of hard. I'm a Manny Gen, so that makes me want to learn all the things and do all the things. And so really just trying to pinpoint what that might look like. I primarily use CBT techniques. I'm also EMDR trained. I just haven't done a lot of the EMDR work, but I do really love it. I love how you can get so much without having to go so deep and having to have people kind of relive. And I think that's so fascinating, and it's so results driven. I mean, you can see such results in such a short amount of time. And I think that that's the coolest part of it. And also because they're not being re-triggered when they're talking about it. So we'll see what that ends up looking like. But yeah, I've always been someone who wants to do a little bit of this and that. And same thing with the population I serve. I've never wanted to only serve one type of population, because I want to be more well-rounded. And then sometimes I just get bored, right? It's like, okay, enough of adults, let's move to kids. And then I'm sure it'll be okay, enough of the kids, let's move to something different. So I'm always trying to grow and do something new.
I love this journey for you. It's just so exciting. And like, I am a person that, even though I'm not a Manny Gen, I love the idea of being able to have just a love of everything. And so like it come if I were a Manny Gen, it would come out in like the fact that I read 7 books at a time for that very reason. Like I just
Yeah.
don't want to get bored.
Yep. I have 4 books, I think, on my nightstand that I'm either reading or trying to get to reading. And then I have 3 or 4 in Audible that I'm in process of reading. So I always have so much going on. It's exhausting being a Manny Gen. It's so exhausting. Don't recommend it.
Oh goodness. And Miss Anna Marie, welcome back. Will you remind our audience who you are and what you do?
Yes. Hi guys, I'm Anna Marie Green. I am a licensed therapist, licensed master social worker, and I'm also a professional intuitive. So my area is I love combining psychology and energy work. I love understanding the energetics of different conditions and simplifying the mental health process and having great mental health by combining energy work and intuitive skills and psychology. And really the demographic that I work with is teens and adults when it comes to one-on-one work, but I really enjoy helping people to give them the tools that they need to help their families. So a lot of my clients are also parents. So the skills and the tools that we talk about, they can also help their kids work through difficult things, and I'll give consultations to that. I really love it. Energy work and psychology just go hand in hand, and I truly think that as time goes on, that a branch of therapy is going to be energetic or intuitive therapy, because it's just so effective. Like some of the the ladies were talking about, of just combining these different ways of doing things. I also primarily use cognitive behavioral therapy, and I've been trained in EMDR. I also was trained in psychoanalytic therapy. So I combine a little bit of all of it and create this beautiful masterpiece of like services that I get to use my intuitive gifts as well as what I've been trained to do. So that's me in a nutshell.
Hey. So the first thing that I wanted to ask you guys, I really wanted to jump in, and I have had a trend on this series of going deep and going fast. Just because usually don't have a whole lot of time. And I don't want to have to cut half these episodes. And I've been so lucky, so I hope you guys don't mind this question. Of course, please feel free to share just what you're comfortable with. But the topic is mental health, and I would assume that many who are listening and watching to this either are watching it because they have some form of mental health thing that they are dealing with themselves, or they're similar to like you guys, they're working with populations that have mental health. I want people to really start being able to see things a little bit through your guys's lens, through your guys's world, but I want to do it from a place that's a little bit more personal than maybe professional. So if you guys would be willing, would you tell me a little bit about where you feel like your mental health is right now. And that doesn't mean you have to give us a diagnosis, just like, how are you doing? Maybe a very therapy thing to ask. And where you think what your path is. Like, if you could like kind of give us a little bit of a trajectory of where you feel like you are on your journey of your mental health. Who I want to start with? Alison, can we start with you?
Of course. Nichole, are you sure you don't want to go first?
Yeah, Nichole, you were like right there. I was
No, I was just like, you know, rip off the Band-Aid, but you go ahead. She called on you first.
Okay, awesome. I guess for me right now, I sort of like to, for myself and my clients, a lot of times, like I like to sort of break it up into two sort of phases. And the first I feel like is like really like that healing phase of like, okay, like I got to this place where I'm really not happy with where I'm at mentally. I don't feel like myself. Things around me just aren't working out well. Maybe you have an actual mental health diagnosis, or maybe it's just like things like something needs to change, sort of. And that's where I was when I first started my healing journey. And now I feel like I'm in the second phase, which I call like the growth phase, which is you sort of get to this point where you know who you are, you like who you are, you feel good on a daily basis. But like if you want to grow and expand in any sort of way, like all of a sudden you start getting triggered again, because all those limiting beliefs and fears that maybe you thought you worked through, or maybe you just didn't really work through because there wasn't a need to, start sort of coming back up. So I feel like I'm in the growth phase, and it sort of just depends on the day. Like if I'm really trying to stretch myself outside of my comfort zone in my career or in my relationship or anything like that, like I will feel it, and I will have to consciously take the time to sit with myself and like work through it, and do sort of like all of the techniques I do on my clients to myself, to sort of get me through it. I'm someone I'm definitely a highly sensitive person. I feel things extremely deeply, and I need to be like very on top of the way that I'm taking care of myself mentally, because otherwise, like I won't just feel it mentally, I will feel it physically. It very much so ties into my physical health as well. So that's sort of where I feel like I am, but I definitely had really hard phases of mental health. Like when I first got into my healing journey, I was struggling with disordered eating. I just had very low self-worth, low self-esteem. And yeah, so it's been a big journey, and I've been like lucky to find really great people to help me along the way. But that's where I feel like my mental health is now. It's sort of just like on a day-to-day basis, like what are the things that I'm experiencing in my external reality, and like are those things triggering me, and how well can I deal with those, and how well can I hold myself with like love and compassion as I deal with the challenges of everyday life, because everyday life is hard for everyone. Yeah.
On your pathway to like what you would consider your ultimate success in this, right? In this area, in this arena, what is it that you can see for yourself in a like mental health aspect? Like what would you like to see yourself be able to achieve?
I think for me, it's very much so sort of peace of mind. And for me right now, something that's been really big and coming up for me a lot is really trusting the universe. Like that for me is so grounding for me. And I've been someone who's always, or in the past, was very controlling, whether it was like food, whether it was money, relationships, really every area of my life. And it brought just so much resistance and fear and lack into my life. And so for me, the more that I can lean into trust and let go of control, like that's the ultimate goal, is to be able to just like live my life without needing to control what's going on around me. And that to me is really like peace of mind.
Beautiful. Nichole, you're next.
I would kind of say the same, where it depends on the day and even the time of day. I know kind of once 7:55, 8 p.m. hits, I have zero energy, zero patience, and I'm on a rampage. So it definitely depends. I would say in the past, so in my 20s, I was diagnosed with like generalized anxiety disorder. I'm definitely still pretty anxious, but I don't think I have it generalized. It's not happening. If we're going to talk diagnosing, it's not happening more days than not. It's definitely gone down. At the same time, we wear a lot of hats, I'm gonna say, and I know for Anna Marie too, right? We're like, I'm a mom, I have a full-time job, I have a husband, I have a podcast, I got suckered into PTA president at my son's school, and I am also trying to have a baby, and so we're on this IVF journey, and so there is just so much going on. And it's exhausting at times. And I would say the past year or so, my mental health has really kind of struggled because I couldn't quite pinpoint it until recently. And I would say once we kind of got the information as far as needing to do IVF, where my mental health like plummeted and I hated my job, and I'm in a new job now and I don't hate. Um, but it was so difficult, and it was so much, and I really did struggle. And the good thing about being a therapist is you're very aware of what's going on, but the bad thing about being a therapist is you're very aware of what's going on. So I'm giving myself depression scales in my head, and I'm telling my husband, this is what I am and this is what's happening. And luckily my friends are therapists, and I'm telling them, on the PHQ-9 guys, I would probably score like a 15 right now. So it's so bad how aware we are. And I would say it's definitely something that's getting better, but it's still a struggle because there still are so many things that are going on, and a lot of things that we're not in control of, right? Alison saying, trying to have control over things. And I am somebody who's a control freak. And if I don't have that control, oh my goodness. So I'm trying to learn how to let go of some of that. And I think it comes also with age, where it's just like, okay, I've been trying this for 40 years and it's not working. So let's pivot and do something different. So I definitely see that things are improving. They're not to where I would like them to be because there are so many like balls in the air that I'm trying not to drop right now. But I think with time, it'll get easier to juggle, and maybe I'll have less balls that I need to juggle, and can do more of the things that I want to do, like finish those 7 books.
I'm sending you so much love. You're trying to get pregnant, and I love that you're like so optimistic about having less to do at some point, that you'll be able to read 7 books, but you're like trying to have a brand new baby. So
It's like, this girl's a Lulu. What is she talking about?
I mean,
Yeah.
Willy Wonka, we shall call you.
Oh my gosh, it's so funny. We're actually in the process of reading Willy Wonka right now. Me and my son read it every night at bedtime, a chapter. That's the current book right now. It's so funny.
Oh goodness. Oh, so I would assume that feeling that you were describing of like just having ease, like having ease in your day is really like that kind of ultimate goal for you.
Totally. And this new job that I have allows me to have more ease, but I'm somebody who really struggles with that. I had 3 months off of work and my days were nothing but ease, and I still managed to fill the day with 20 things to do. And it's something that I'm trying to get better about. So because I think I was given the job that I have for a reason, so that I can have more of that. But I'm like, no, I can't. I feel guilty. I can't be doing this other thing that I want to do for this other business that I want to grow. Like, I need to do work for this job, even though I've done all my work today. Well, now I need to find work to do. So yeah, that's been the hard part. Ease isn't in my vocabulary in that way.
Well, we are going to continue hoping that it gets there. Maybe with that new baby. With the new baby shall come ease. There we go. You're gonna be the one and only parent who can say it. We're manifesting it. Anna Marie, what about you? How you doing? What's the trajectory?
So I would say that it's similar to what Nichole said, in the sense of it is great being a therapist, and it is also overwhelming being a therapist when it comes to your own mental health. I am somebody who in the past, the way that I dealt with life or did not deal with life is that I am very, very ambitious and career oriented, and I will work to the bone as a way to cope with like stress. I will overwork, I will sacrifice sleep to get something done because I'm like, I have to earn this. I have to, work really hard. And so I juggle all of the hats and I do all of the things. And that's been a really big journey for me, is not making everything so transactional. Like I don't always have to produce something. I don't always have to, do this thing. I wouldn't say that I would describe myself as a like control freak or like somebody who's uber controlling like the other women did, but in a way, I guess I kind of am with like the universe, because I'm like, okay, universe, I'm doing this very specific thing. And I was given this formula, I'm doing it. So then I expect it here, like right now. And so that's been a thing. And I grew up in a household where very much you had to earn everything. My parents, I grew up with this mindset of, my mom always telling me, you are going to have to work harder than everybody else that you see just to get a little bit of what they have, because you are disabled and you are Black. And, and then when I became a single mom. And so I very much had that subconscious belief, and it has been fighting in the trenches with it for the last couple years. And then I would say, like, as a therapist, I'll know when my I would score a certain way on the GAD or on like the depression scale. And even when I went to a doctor's appointment this past year, and they were like, you're scoring a little like high in that. And I'm like, I know, it's fine. I have a plan for it. Like, so I disregard, like, I won't accept help. I'll just be like, I have a plan. I know how to get myself out of this. I'm just going to let myself be in this place for a little bit. And so I think that's another thing that I've been working on, is like accepting help, telling people when I am struggling, because I'm very much that, like, I am a lone warrior, soldier, princess, and I shall do it all on my own. I know you're laughing because you're like, yes, you are.
You are.
So that's really been what I'm working on. My trajectory and the goal of where I want to go is essentially being able to slow down and slowing down, accepting rest. I really struggle with receiving without overgiving. And I think I'm pretty good at like being able to figure out how to relax at the end of the day, but I think I would like to be able to not feel like I have to cram my days to earn happiness, to earn rest. And so that would probably be my trajectory, is like just feeling more at ease, slowing down, because I've always been fast my entire life. I'm just like go 150% at all time. So yeah.
And that, like, knowing who you are, that doesn't surprise me at all. Like, go. um do you guys think that the spaces in which you find your guys' mental health right now, do you feel like there is a particular lesson that comes out of that could be found unto your soul contract, or do you guys fully feel like, you know what, it's simply the situations that I've put myself in, it's simply the circumstances of which have occurred because my life took a particular path, but it's not necessarily written anywhere cosmically or in stone somewhere? Nichole, can we start with you?
Sorry. Oh gosh, that's such a good question. I feel like it could go either way, because my first thought was, I think it's written in the sense, and I'll use my human design, for example, right? My human design was like written in the stars, right? It is who I am. And in that sense, I do think that I contracted to come here at this time and to have, my birthday and the time that I came in, and to, have my big three and I have my human design. So in that sense, I think yes, to an extent. I do also think that some of it has to do with just things that I put on myself, right? Where I am also somebody who feels like I always need to do, and I don't, but I don't know, I don't know how else to do that. So I think it's a little bit of both. I think it also depends on the season of life, on again the day, because I think there's some days where I can say, okay, you know what? I don't want to do this today and I don't have to do it today. But there's other days that I can't. And I'm always trying to figure out, why could I do it this way, on this day, and why couldn't I do the same thing on this other day? What was different about it? And really trying to see, what was going on, maybe subconsciously, what was going on environmentally that triggered me to say, I can't rest, I can't do these other things. So I would say for me, I don't have a hard and fast. It's soul contract or me. I think it's both.
Listen, do you agree? And if you do, to what, maybe it's to what level do you agree? Or is it completely, no, I think everything is written or nothing's written? Where do you fall?
Um, yeah, I think that everything is written and predetermined. I again am a very big believer in spirituality in the universe, and I just have found that like the themes that present in my life, it always ties back to the same couple of themes, just sort of representing themselves. And I also very much so believe that the people that are in my life are very much so tied to those. Like I really have a strong belief in like divine timing and meeting those people who are really meant to be that mirror for you, um, which I have experienced a lot of. I just have personally found that like in every single really painful thing that I've experienced, like I've always been able to turn it into purpose, into greater healing. And so for me, that makes it feel like it's something bigger, like it's more than just like what's coming up on a daily basis. Um, and I believe that like when you have those days where like something does trigger you or resurface for a reason, it's because it's like being asked to be worked on right now. Like I just find that everything is like a crazy coincidence, but it's not, because like there's no such thing as a coincidence. So I really believe it's all written into the soul contract. And I've had a lot of like events in my life too that have sort of forced me to deal with my mental health, that I also really believe were like very strategically placed there at that exact time to force me to do that. Um, so yeah, I think it's all really written with that. And I just find that the more that I, again, like am able to trust the universe and work with the universe and trust that it's all for a greater purpose and it's all to help me heal on a deeper level and really be able to, for me personally, like help others heal, because that's really what I feel like my journey here is to do. Um, the more that I'm able to embrace what's coming up on an everyday basis, and really try to like learn as much as I can from it, as opposed to view it at like as something that's blocking me. It's like, no, the block is sort of the way through. It's the way to get to where I want to get to.
Yeah. Anna Marie, can you give us your thoughts on this, and then I want to ask you a question that Alison actually like made me go, that's a great question to ask. So first, your thoughts on that?
Yeah. So I think that uh, kind of both, so to speak, because we do have free will when it comes to like we agree to a contract, but we have free will. But I very much have seen that contracts have fail safes. So, it might not be related to a soul lesson about my mental health, but maybe it's about me learning to step into my feminine, or me learning how to be more flexible. But the way that it's being learned is through my mental health, is through this specific avenue and these different things that are coming up. And so I think that a lot of soul lessons that we're coming to learn are tied to our mental health, but it doesn't necessarily mean that the soul lesson is, mental health. It a lot of times is something else, maybe learning to not to put in boundaries, like maybe your soul really struggles with boundaries and things like that. And so the way that's coming up is through your relationships and stress there. So I definitely think that it is a little bit of both. And that it can kind of express itself in those different ways.
All right, everybody, that was part 1 of the mental health edition of our soul contract series. I cannot believe that this is the last one in the series, this last edition. Of course, you still have 2 more parts to check out for this particular series, this particular edition. But before you take a jump into the next section, please like, comment, subscribe, and share with anyone you feel is in absolute need of this conversation. Also, check down below in the show notes and you will find all the different ways to connect with the panelists as well as the organizations they're uplifting for this particular episode. And of course, we will see you in part 2.